Imagine being lowered into a dark, earthen pit. You wait in the darkness until you hear the thud of hooves on the wooden planks above you. Then, a sacred spear finds its mark, and the hot, thick blood of a freshly sacrificed bull pours down through the gaps, drenching you from head to toe. You emerge reborn, purified, promised an eternity free from the clutches of death. This wasn't some fringe ritual. This was a practice embraced by senators and elites in the heart of the Roman Empire, a visceral ceremony in a hidden spiritual world that thrived just beneath the surface of official Roman life. Welcome to 10-Minute History. I'm your host, Jake Sullivan, and today we're going underground to explore the mystery cults of ancient Rome, these secret faiths that promised personal salvation when the state religion offered only cold, civic duty. To understand why millions of Romans flocked to these new gods, we first have to understand the spiritual void they filled. The traditional Roman religion was less a matter of faith and more a public utility. It was built on a principle called douitus asterisk, I give so that you might give. You performed a specific sacrifice, recited the right prayer, and in exchange the gods were expected to grant victory in battle or a good harvest for the state. These gods, like Jupiter and Mars, were powerful but distant. They didn't care about your personal anxieties or what happened to your soul after you died. The Roman afterlife was a bleak, shadowy affair with no promise of paradise. But as the empire expanded, bringing chaos, war, and a flood of new ideas, people began to hunger for something more. They wanted a god who cared about them personally, a faith that offered comfort, and most of all, a hopeful answer to the question of death. Into this void came a torrent of exotic gods from the east, and the first to be officially welcomed into Rome was the Great Mother, Cybele. Her arrival in 204 BCE was an act of sheer desperation. Rome was losing a devastating war against the brilliant general Hannibal. Panic gripped the city. The Senate consulted a book of ancient prophecies, which gave a clear instruction. To defeat their enemy, they must bring the Idaean mother from her home in what is now Turkey. So a high-level Roman embassy was sent, and they returned not with a grand statue, but with a small black meteorite, believed to be the physical embodiment of the goddess herself. As the ship carrying the stone sailed up the Tiber River, it suddenly ran aground. It was a terrible omen. But then a noblewoman named Claudia Quinta, whose reputation was under suspicion, stepped forward. She prayed to the goddess to prove her innocence, grabbed the ship's rope, and single-handedly pulled the massive vessel free. It was a public relations masterstroke. The goddess had arrived, and she had already performed a miracle. But while Rome welcomed the goddess's power, it was horrified by her priests, known as the asterisk Galli. In ecstatic frenzies, these men had castrated themselves in imitation of Cybele's mythical consort Attis, who in a fit of madness had done the same. The Galli wore bright feminine clothing, heavy makeup, and wandered the streets playing loud music, a shocking sight that deeply offended Roman ideas of manly self-control. For centuries, Roman citizens were forbidden from joining this priesthood. The cult's main event was a week-long festival in March that reenacted the story of Attis. It culminated in the Day of Blood, where the priests would work themselves into a trance, flogging themselves and gashing their arms with knives, spattering the altar with their own blood. It was a day of intense, public grief. But the very next day was the asterisk Hilaria, the day of joy. Attis was considered reborn, and the city erupted in feasting and celebration, marking the triumph of life over death. But if Cybele's cult was a storm of ecstatic passion, the next wave to arrive from the east brought a message of compassionate grace. This was the cult of Isis, the universal queen from Egypt. In her original myth, Isis was the devoted wife of the god king Osiris. When Osiris was murdered and dismembered by their jealous brother Set, the grieving Isis tirelessly searched all of Egypt, found every piece of his body, and used her immense magical powers to bring him back to life. Osiris became the merciful king of the underworld, while Isis became the ultimate symbol of wifely devotion, motherly love, and a power strong enough to conquer death itself. As her cult spread from Egypt into the Greek and Roman world, she transformed. She became Croesus Myrianimos asterisk, the goddess of 10,000 names. a universal savior who absorbed the qualities of many other goddesses. Unlike the distant Roman gods, Isis was a deity who had suffered herself, so she understood human pain and promised to personally intervene for her followers. But unlike Cybele, Isis was not invited to Rome. Her cult was viewed with deep suspicion. Its secret rites, its Egyptian priests with their shaven heads, and its powerful appeal to women were all seen as a threat to the traditional Roman social order. The Senate tried to ban her worship multiple times. There's a famous story of a nobleman who bribed the priests of Isis to trick a devout woman named Paulina. They told her the god Anubis wanted to meet her in the temple at night, where the nobleman, disguised as the god, then sexually assaulted her. When the crime was revealed, the Emperor Tiberius had the priests crucified and the temple destroyed. Despite this hostility, the cult's popularity exploded. Our best account of its rituals comes from a 2nd-century novel called The Golden Ass. The main character, after being turned into a donkey, is saved by Isis and initiated into her mysteries. The initiation was a profound, life-changing experience. It involved a ritual baptism and a secret, nocturnal ceremony inside the temple. The author, bound by an oath of secrecy, could only describe it in metaphors, writing, "I approached the boundary of death. In the middle of the night, I saw the sun flashing with brilliant light. I came face to face with the gods." This suggests a symbolic journey to the underworld and a dazzling vision of the divine, a spiritual rebirth that guaranteed the goddess's protection for eternity. This message of hope, and the fact that women could be priestesses and leaders in the cult, made Isis one of the most beloved deities in the entire empire. But there was another god who whispered promises in the shadows, a god not for everyone but exclusively for men. This was Mithras, the unconquerable soldier's god. Of all the mystery cults, Mithras is the most enigmatic, because his followers left behind no sacred texts. We have to piece his story together from the art and archaeology they left behind, found in subterranean, cave-like temples called Mithraea. The origins of Mithras are a puzzle. His name is Persian, linked to an ancient god of light and contracts. But the central image of his Roman cult, the scene of him slaying a bull, is found nowhere in Persian art or texts. Many scholars now believe Mithraism was a brilliant Roman invention, a new religion that borrowed an exotic Persian name to give it an aura of ancient wisdom. Every Mithraeum was focused on a single, powerful image called the Asterix. It shows the youthful Mithras in his distinctive pointed cap reluctantly slaying a great bull. This is not an act of violence, but of creative sacrifice. From the bull's wound and tail, stalks of grain are shown sprouting. His death brings new life to the cosmos. A dog and snake lick the life-giving blood, while a scorpion attacks the bull's genitals, representing cosmic forces vying for this new power. Worship in the Mithraeum was intimate. These small, hidden spaces could only hold 30 or 40 men at a time, who would recline on stone benches and share a ritual meal, fostering an intense sense of brotherhood. To join, a man had to progress through 7 grades of initiation. A novice started as a Corax asterisk, or raven. He could then become a asterisk, Miles asterisk, or soldier. During this initiation, he was offered a crown on the tip of a sword, but he had to push it away, declaring, "Mithras is my crown," a powerful pledge of ultimate loyalty to his god. The highest grade was the asterisk, pater asterisk, or father, who led the congregation. This ethos of loyalty, discipline, and a clear hierarchy resonated perfectly with the Roman army. Mithraea are found all along the empire's military frontiers, from Britain to Syria, providing a spiritual home and a secret brotherhood for soldiers far from home. So what does it all mean? Why did millions of Romans turn from the gods of the state to the mysteries of Cybele, Isis, and Mithras? These cults succeeded because they offered everything the traditional religion did not. They made religion personal, offering a direct, emotional connection to a savior god who cared about your individual soul. They provided a space for cathartic emotional release, from the wild grief of Cybele's rites to the profound joy of an Isiac festival. And most importantly, they offered a clear, hopeful promise of a blessed afterlife, a victory over the finality of death. These faiths also created new kinds of community, binding people together across class and origin, from a slave in Rome to a soldier on Hadrian's Wall. And this vibrant, competitive spiritual marketplace is the world into which Christianity was born. Early Christian writers were acutely aware of the parallels. They saw the Mithraic ritual meal of bread and wine, the baptismal rites of Isis, the theme of a dying and rising Savior God, and the images of a divine mother and child, and they called it, quote, diabolical mimicry, a satanic counterfeit of the true faith. But these cults had already taught the Roman world a new spiritual language, one of salvation, rebirth, and personal faith. When Christian missionaries arrived preaching a similar message, the ideas were no longer completely alien. In the end, the triumph of Christianity was a process of both conflict and absorption. The human hunger for meaning, community, and hope that drew people to Isis and Mithras didn't disappear. It was redirected, and the spiritual world of the Caesars was transformed forever. So what are your thoughts on this? Let us know down in the comments below. If you found this interesting or learned something new, please give this video a like, and don't forget to subscribe to 10-Minute History for more deep dives. Thanks for listening.